Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people that want the best info, but just don't have the time. Get your podcast fix with the Cliff Notes versions of your favorite podcasts. No fluff, just the actionable golden nuggets. Having this much knowledge at your fingertips should be downright illegal. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with SatoriPrime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Performance Enhancing Podcast with your host, Ilan Ferdman. So if you haven't signed up to our PEP list to receive a recap email about this week's shows, make sure you head over to performancepodcasts.com. That's podcasts with an S at the end of it. So make sure you remember that. You can even pick up 6 hours of subliminal training when you sign up. That basically means now you can work on things like speed reading, memory, and even how to be more decisive through subliminal messaging just by listening. So make sure you do that. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed to our show via iTunes, you can also do that at performancepodcasts.com/iTunes. Or if you prefer to use Stitcher, you can do the same thing at performancepodcast.com/Stitcher. And remember, we have new episodes coming out every Monday and Thursday morning, so you can grab those then. Lastly, if you want to keep up with everything that we do at SatoriPrime, you can always head over to our main site, SatoriPrime.com, and roam around. We have a ton of free content that we constantly update. And if any of you are looking for some mentorship around your marketing efforts, and I'm talking specifically about Facebook paid marketing on how you can use that to double, triple, or even quadruple your business, then we do actually have a couple of masterminds we run that can absolutely transform your marketing efforts in less than 90 days. So you can check those out by applying to see if you're a fit for one of them at SatoriPrime.com/mastermind. And with that, let's kick off today's show. Well, as you may have guessed it is now officially 2015, and Guy and I are extremely excited to bring back the one and only Beer Talk. So we actually recorded this before New Year's. I think this was December 30th or 31st. It was the last time we actually communicated. And what we wanted to do is kind of complete the year. And then we share with you the process by which we did that. So this is going to be a two-piece beer talk. And in the first piece, we actually go over our year, our biggest failure, our biggest learning experience, things that we acknowledged in each other, biggest growth in the business, biggest success, things of that nature, which was really interesting. And we've kind of uncovered a lot of things during that part of the conversation. So that's what you're going to hear today. And in the second piece, we're going to share with you our process that we go through and how we complete the previous year. So in fact, how we completed 2014 and then how we create 2015. So when we create our goals and all of that stuff, how we actually do that. A lot of people go about it totally wrong. And if they don't complete the year before, they tend to build on top of it. And it's kind of like, as we explained, carrying your suitcase with all your crap in it into the new year, and it's really ineffective. So I really hope you enjoyed the last installment of 2014, even though it's now 2015, and make sure you listen to both parts because the first part will set the context for part two. Enjoy, everyone. All right, 3, 2, 1. we're gonna 3, 2, 1 that one again.
Yeah, you should put that one in as a blooper.
That's a 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Guy here, and that can only mean, well, not can only mean, but usually only means one thing, and that is it's beer talk time.
Beer talk.
Yeah. So it's a special beer talk, not because it's lucky number 7, but because it's the end of the year and beginning of 2015. And so Guy and I, to celebrate, decided we were going to get viciously drunk off of one beer.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah. So show them what you're drinking.
I have myself a Port Brewing Older Viscosity. It's a malt beverage aged in oak barrels. It's probably the most expensive single bottle of beer I've ever seen. It is $17 for a 12-ounce bottle.
Celebration.
Take that, Budweiser. And it's from a local brewing company here in San Marcos, and it's got a average screw with your head percentage of 12% ABV. So I'll probably be slurring about 30 minutes in.
Nice. Well, not to be outdone, and we didn't discuss this beforehand. We just walk over with bottles, obviously. I went to one of my favorites. This is Evil Twin Brewing Company. And if you can see that, that is Molotov Cocktail. And that is a 13%er.
Oof.
Yeah.
Right, well, I'm going to pop mine because mine's got a fancy cork in it.
So I just want to, I want to read this because I've never read this. Did you like before, during, and after Christmas? Maybe you thought it poured brilliantly, the alcohol was admirable, well hidden, and you loved how the arrogant amounts of hops numbed your mouth. This beer will knock your tongue off.
Wow.
It's a tour de force in happiness, and by far one of the craziest beer ever made by Evil Twin Brewing. That sounds exactly like what I should be drinking right now.
Yeah, you might want to wear a helmet with that one.
I may be bouncing into the wall behind me after this. All right, so while we're doing this.
Hold this away from my face while I open it. It feels like it's going to explode.
While Guy is about to crack himself open with a, let me show you this.
Beer talk. It's all about the beer and the talk.
Bro, remember the first time we sat in front of that screen and we're like, let's do a beer talk.
Let's just talk with beers in our hands.
That sounds like something people could get behind.
Let's see if I can get it. Let's see if I get a nice meniscus here.
Oh, wow. You've got that all the way to the top.
Giggity, giggity.
Giggity goo.
Giggity, giggity. Ooh, ooh. I got to be careful. There's a keyboard underneath this thing. Oh.
All right, well, take that sip before it lands on your keyboard. That's paying the bills right now. Cheers.
Wait for it. Cheers. I can't move my cup. Hold on.
That's fine.
Holy boo! You cannot take big sips of that one. that is a big boy drink.
Wow.
I'm not old enough for what that is. Oh my god. Woo! Holy Lord.
Wow.
That is liquor. That is not even beer.
Wow, really?
Wow. Gotta get you this one. Holy crap. Yep. Too big.
we
30 seconds.
Flew too close to the sun on the wings of a beer.
Wings of pastrami. Just nut.
All right, guys. So enough about the beer and us getting crazy with it. Here's what we wanted to do. Today is a special day. This is actually the last time Guy and I will be creating any content in 2014. And we wanted to.
I thought you were going to scare everybody, tell them we're never doing anything ever again.
Yeah, we're off. That's it. This is it.
We're done. Back to babysitting.
But what I wanted to do today is talk about a few things. One, I wanted us to share a little bit about 2014. The funny part is leading up to this, I was like, I don't know what happened in 2014, like 2013 and 14 and what will be fit. It's all like merging into one. So we're going to do our best. And the things that we want to cover are biggest failures of 2014, biggest lessons learned from those failures, and then biggest victories, both company and personal, for us. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our process. And by process, I mean, how do you complete a previous year? And then how do you create for the new year? So a lot of people try to build their new year on top of failures or perceived failures, I should say, from the previous year. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, that is just a recipe for no success. And so we're going to show you our process and talk you through it. And then Guy and I haven't even done it this year. We actually do it right in the beginning of the new year. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah. So anything you want to say?
First get drunk. First get drunk, then get your brain back, then create.
Yes, exactly.
What do I want to say? It's been honestly an incredible year. Like I always dreamed of this year to have lived through it. It was a different experience, and just big thinking started this year for us in a new way. Like I think we were always big thinkers, but I felt like whatever our ceiling was went up a few hundred floors probably this year, which is why we started, saying a lot of the things I think me and you were always wanted to say, but we're scared to say. The stuff you say in your head that you were wishful thinking, but now it's becoming out loud and it's building steam. So it's incredible to see it. And already some of the conversations that I've caught fire in the last few weeks that are leading into 2015 are making me really excited about what's coming this year. And then I could really see us doing some hardcore damage in a beautiful way this year. So yeah, I can't wait to have this conversation. I honestly don't have a single answer for any of the questions that you asked. I've been kind of sitting here thinking like, what would I answer? And I don't know. So I kind of want to ask you because somehow you have a better idea than me. Like, because
as you can tell,
I can riff off it, but
as you can tell, these are very well scripted episodes.
Whatever. Yeah, our beer talks
we really plan these out.
Yeah, but let's just pose the question as is. I would actually want to know your failure after your greatest success. I think there's a lot more to be gained from failures. So I'd want to know, like, what do you feel like, and it can be personal or it can be corporate, company based. Like, what did you feel? I was about to call us corporate. We're like the least corporate people in the world. Yes, more of this. What do you feel was your personal or company biggest success of the year?
So I'll do two. I'll do company, like SatoriPrime success, and I will also do personal. So from a company standpoint, SatoriPrime, I think the biggest transformation that's happened this year has been our ability to put ourselves out there. I think I said this to you in the beginning of the year, which is like we've been creating for a long time with our mouths, right? And we were creating from nothing, and there was no result in the world to justify what we were creating. But we just knew that this is who we are, and this is what SatoriPrime is. And this year, I can see for the first time the boomerang effect, where other people started saying, like, it was like our words leaving their mouths.
Yeah.
And I felt it started at the beginning of the year. And then through that process, like even today, I just posted on my wall, so cool. Terry posted, like, stop what you're doing. And if you want to make sure that you succeed in 2014, go seek out these guys. Like, you're an idiot if you don't. And I was like, how cool is that? You know, we have an army now of people who are just creating our future for us.
People believe in the mission.
Yeah. So I think from like a global standpoint, that's what I think was our biggest success this year.
Okay.
And how that played out, like in physical results, was, you know, we from nothing created two actual Facebook masterminds this year, and within a matter of about 72 hours filled up both of them, and they were not cheap. These are, you know, at the time we were charging $750 a month for one and $1,500 a month for another. And think, like, just in whatever, it's been, say, 7-8 months that we've been doing that, we're already at $1,000 a month for one and $2,500 for the other, and still filling them up, you know, without enough seats in the place. So I think that for me is the biggest validation that our value that we are contributing to the world is now seen as insanely valuable.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's a little victory that will play out. There's a little victory that will play out here in February where through our partnership with Jason, we're actually going to be like the traffic guys at Traffic and Conversions come February.
Yeah.
So for anyone that's going to be at Traffic and Conversion Summit, you'll see us, like, and they'll be talking about us from stage, which is insane. So,
by the way, that looks really fake. Look at that.
Yeah. Maybe after this beer, it'll get a little more like.
Yeah, that won't make any sense on the podcast, but you got to watch the video to see what happened right there.
So I think there's so that's the company. And for me personally, and I shared this on a podcast earlier, like, and not to be like all cheapo materialistic guy, but being able to buy the dream car and have it be sitting in my driveway, and now it has a license plate. Like, my license plate actually reads my Satori, which I thought was, you know, for me, it's just like a great reminder and a great anchor. But manifesting that with all the hard work that we've put in for years, and like not having taken out a penny, and then having that be sitting in my driveway, for me personally, has been just such a marker of our work. Like, all the effort that went in, and seeing this thing, and like every time I touch the handle to open the car, all I keep thinking about is the amazing work that we've done over the past, 3.5 years.
Amazing. No doubt. So I got a little twist on your questions, and I'm going to answer those questions, but for you. So like what I think your biggest achievement of the year was.
Okay.
So you're right. I think the car, it's a physical manifestation of something. It's a measurement of something more than it is like, hey, look at the stuff I have. It's like I set a goal, I created something, I put enough energy behind something. This is the, structural language, what we call structural language, like buying a watch or something else. It's just like a landmark moment where you could say, I have the right to, I've earned this. I have the right for this, right?
Yeah.
But my biggest thing for you this year was just ownership and responsibility. I always, it wasn't like I felt this way, but now looking back, seeing you own SatoriPrime, not be part of SatoriPrime, I think was probably your biggest achievement of the year.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting because I watched you. So for those of you that don't know how Ilan and I operate, Ilan's kind of more on the relationship business development side of our company, and I'm much more on the technical side. So, it would lead you to believe that I obviously have more know-how when it comes to technical stuff, running marketing campaigns, et cetera, et cetera. But Ilan obviously has a really good knowledge base also. But this year, watching you even be in the mastermind and you seeing how everything's put together, now when I hear you talking to our prospects, the level of knowledge, but also I think a lot of it came just from us beginning to actually mastermind with so many high-end people. And I mean, like this year for me and you has been like, honestly, like learning how to learn all over again.
Yeah.
Right. And understanding the process for mastery, I think at a completely different level. Not that we weren't doing it before, but I think we have new distinctions around it, right? Around what mastery is and then what learning is, what education is, and our ability to now give that back. But because of that, I saw the impact on you was you started seeing yourself as much more valuable than even you usually believe yourself to be. And you're a very confident person, but something just went like, I really got something here.
I actually know the exact moment that happened.
Okay.
That happened. Remember when I went to that networking event? It was
in New York.
It was like beginning of December.
Yeah.
And I remember walking into a room of people, and I've also done a podcast about this, about like belonging, right? And I walked into a room with 7, 8, even 9-figure earners, and I was just kind of like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I don't, like, those are the main conversations. Like, I don't belong here. Like, I somehow snuck in. Hopefully they won't notice. Like, hopefully I don't make a big, like, hopefully I just don't fuck this up bad enough that they invite me back.
Yeah.
And I remember within the first hour, I started listening and it got louder and louder and louder. And I said, you know what, Ilan, like, business aside, I knew from our personal development side, like, there's an ability that I have to listen to people and then contribute to them on a personal level that regardless of what I know or don't know in the marketing world, like I can contribute that. But lo and behold, I was having conversations with people and I was sharing what we were doing and how I can see certain things benefiting them. And I remember every single person walked away and just thanked me. It was like, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Like, I'm absolutely going to go implement that. And I just went, well, if I'm doing that for 7, 8, 9-figure earners, like, there's no effing way that I can't contribute like this to people that are just starting to build their business.
Sure.
And that was the biggest shift for me. It was more, it's like we always say, it's the mindset. It wasn't like I went out and learned something new. I did, obviously, because that drove me to learn more and more and more. But it was just the ability to be able to express that and believe that I am of that high, like that value to everyone.
Yeah. I think you just realize where your value is best applied.
Yeah.
Like where you can easily give so much value to people and we say this to our students all the time, you're discounting what you know. You're discounting the experiences that you have. You don't see the value in it yet. And again, it's because you really cannot tie the string forward. You can't see the thread. But give it enough time, and when you start looking at the thread backwards, it's just like you look at people and you're like, it's so obvious. It's just like, take advantage now, and you want them to like start taking action around what they already have. So yeah, man, like I'm super proud. We've had many conversations in our business along the way where we've had to have like real talk, right? Not beer talk, like real talk about taking things to the next level with each other, like personally taking more responsibility, taking ownership, having integrity in what we say, expanding our educational base. And if there's anything I've really taken away from this year is understanding that specializing is literally a dying creature.
Yes, 100%.
Like the reason it's so important to understand mastery, the reason it's so important to educate yourself on how to educate yourself is because the world where you got to specialize in anything and do that for the rest of your life, and it was valuable for 30 to 40, 50 years, those days are gone. Besides the fact that we're living longer, you need to be well-rounded today. You need to offer people value in so many different ways today that impact their lives far beyond just what you're doing in business. And if you really look at the great CEOs today, the Elon Musks, the Bill Gates, Zuckerbergs, like all those people, the shift in the person who's making a lot of money in the world has gone from a take person, which is what the old CEOs of the past used to be, to give, right? Like Elon Musk's whole mission is to literally like have the human race continue to survive. Yeah. That's basically what he's inventing everything for. That's a mission in the background. So he wants to colonize Mars, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, the whole point is that's what it's about today. And I'm happy that we live in a time that we get to express that and that we feel that deeply and want to give stuff back. And I don't think it's a coincidence that when that shift happened is when the income started going through the roof. Also. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to add to that, also one of the things that I just realized as you were talking, I think our partnership deepened this year. From obviously we always had the brother thing, but like from a work perspective, I think I was always trying to find where I belonged in SatoriPrime. Like what I knew it would take me time because I had to get to a certain level of competence for my true skill set to actually be like, for my creativity to run, I needed to gain a very high level of mastery in certain skill sets. And that took me much, much longer than you. So I think it also took me a lot of time to figure out, well, where do I fit in and what can I contribute? But I feel like ever since that happened, like our work relationship has become seamless. It's
effortless.
It's just so fluid.
Yeah, it's never been this fluid before. Look, we're and not to be gay on everybody, but we're like dance partners who've been dancing with each other for like 3 years, 4 years. And we just know I move my foot right. I know exactly where your foot's going to be. And it really is just a dance. And it's so funny because we've always had distinction dancing in a conversation. Yeah. It's always been a little bit of an abstract concept to me. And it's not anymore. Like I really get that. And I get that. And because I get that in our relationship, I've gotten that in a lot of my relationships.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's made me more fluid and it's made me resist a lot less than I used to in certain areas of my life, especially around relationships, right? Because when people like give you feedback, you hear criticism, and that has really like mellowed out this year for me. Like I can really hear things now.
Yeah.
I feel like my listening's really expanded this year.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to think like the last time, because Guy would get to this point where there would be multiple times in a few month period where I would just like hang up. I was like, I can't talk to you anymore.
Yeah. That's like every 6 months at least.
But I don't remember honestly the last time that happened. Like when we first started working, it was pretty much like monthly. Like I would let it rise. So at some point I was like, I can't do this. And then it was done with that conversation and it was back to normal. But like, I honestly don't remember the last time we had that kind of conversation.
Yeah. There was a lot of tension in the early days.
Well, listen,
but it was tension. Look, it was, forces applied from a lot of different areas of life, finances and me being on the East Coast and not feeling like I belong there. I mean, a million things. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
So that was cool. So you do yours and then I'll do
me.
You also.
I've had a really interesting year. Honestly, 2014 was probably the year that I've been waiting for my entire life. When I was what?
Me too. For you.
Yeah. For me, yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of people. But, when I was 19 and I did Landmark Forum, what that did at that time was plant some seeds in my head that have literally taken about 13 years for them to really bear fruit. So if you can imagine mending a plant for 13 years, it's kind of what I feel like I've done. And it was not easy at all. And I wouldn't change it, any part of it, not even for a second. But this year was the year that the things that I've been telling myself in my mind for 13 years, and instead of just thinking them, I started believing them and started saying them.
Yeah.
So if there's two things that I would tell you that I've owned this year is number one, my leadership ability, and not just leading in small communities. I mean, like global leader. Like that's my distinction now. What that looks like, I don't know yet, but I know that I am here to fuck some shit up.
In a good way.
Like, in a really good way. Like I know that I don't know if I'm the one, but I am one of the one that's going to make a profound difference on this planet before I die. And whether that means I'm known or unknown doesn't matter to me. That's not the intent at all. I don't care if I even do it from behind the scenes and there's an impact. I don't care. But I know that I'll be one of those people. Number two is just, and this might seem a little abstract to some of you guys because it has been to me, but my imagination and belief might be the things that I'm most proud of this year. So my ability to imagine has gone absolutely through the roof in terms of, and when I say imagine, it's like whatever you believe is possible for yourself in your life is where your ceiling is. So your imagination is what's capping what's possible for you.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't willing to let themselves have feats of fantasy that are like just seem so unrealistic to them that they won't even let their mind wander in those places because they're like, that's never going to happen. And if you have that ideal, well, guess what? Never going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So it's like whatever beliefs you have. So this year I really allowed my mind to just go, and I have to honestly give a lot of credit to ayahuasca ceremonies for that one, because the things that I saw and experienced just were so far beyond what I thought was actually happening that now I'm just like willing to kind of believe in anything. If it serves, I don't see the point of not believing in it, right? Literally.
I haven't told you this. January 30th.
Power to the people. And then because of that, I saw the response of my life to that imagination and what started happening around me. And because of that, my belief went through the roof.
And so, what about in business?
I don't know that I see the difference anymore. It's a very blurry line for me because where it impacts business is where I see my ability to impact people.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like my belief impacts other people's belief. But I'd say like more in the physical universe, just watching the growth of our company to me is like honestly, I could like start crying right now because I like to everybody else, like doing work, right? Like what we sacrificed, what we chanced to make this a reality, and not just for us, but our ability to impact people and possibly change the outcome of the planet. You know what I mean? And that might sound so stupid to people listening to this, but I really believe that. I really believe what we're doing here is going to eventually put a huge dent in the way that everyone gets to live their lives on the planet. And to me, that's extremely moving to just see it like, okay, you guys have built the foundation, let's go. And like watch everything just start coming to agreement with the reality that we've been creating is really fucking beautiful. And the money is the measurement of it, but it's not. It's nice because it's allowed for new freedoms to exist in the background, like the physical freedoms to exist, but it's not what's made me turned on by what's happening. It's the other people's belief, because people need money to believe, right? Like that's just how we measure. So it's like they see it and now they believe in it, and it's allowed us to have, like we said, we're building a stage to speak from, and to see people get transformed and moved by that. That means everything to me.
I mean, we said it before, but like when you realize that money is an exchange for people to it's like a like button on Facebook. It's someone saying, hey, I like, love, and appreciate what you are doing and contributing to the world. Yep. The more value, the more you can contribute to the world, the larger your bank account. And I think for us, that's been, like you said, yes, it's nice and it's freedoms. And, you know, I got like my token car and all that stuff. But like, I think seeing that curve, and it was a really fast curve, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, is just validation that what we are contributing now to the world is actually making global impact.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that for us has been beautiful.
It's just been landmark moment after landmark moment this year. I feel like every month, like something's happened where I'm like, wow, like I just can't believe it. And I always say, you know, like action leads to results, results lead to belief, more action. It's like that cycle. So like even seeing that at work in our lives, I mean, I literally feel like I can like run through a mountain.
Yeah.
And that might sound really dangerous to some people and even egotistical, and it's not meant in that way at all. I just feel really powerful. Like I've always dreamed of this emotional state. And I knew that it was like, for me, it's like falling in love, but with like, almost like me. Right. And which I think is in the world, like falling in love with yourself might be the hardest thing on the fucking planet to do. And again, not in a hokey kind of way, but just like love to me was personal belief. And there's always been some glimmer of doubt. And it doesn't mean that that's gone forever. And I'll expand, I'm sure, this year a million times more and look at 2014 and be like, nothing in comparison to 2015. But I'll never forget this year.
Yeah.
For the rest of my life. Yeah.
Yeah. My acknowledgement of you this year would pretty much be almost word for word what you said. I think it's the first time. So Guy and I, for those that don't know, we've had a very interesting relationship. So we grew up, we were super close. At 12, something happened to Guy. He kind of went down a different path. We didn't connect as much. We had many conversations about it, but basically, I saw him starting to pity himself and look for pity. That was my reality of the situation. I didn't want to give him that. It was really sad because when he needed his biggest brother the most, I wasn't there for him because I was like, I'm not giving this guy pity, which cut our relationship. 19, he went, did Landmark, came back, our relationship got started. And then we've obviously been closer after 19 than we've ever been previously in our lives. Sure. But the entire time, Guy, I think, always felt like he was somewhat living in my shadow. I think the first time you went to college was the first time that you kind of were Guy Ferdman, and it wasn't Ilan's brother. But even after that, you were friends with mostly my friends and, all this kind of stuff. And then I think when you moved to California, what our friends even told you, when we were all in Mexico, was that you've become your own man.
Yeah.
And as much as you led SatoriPrime from a technical standpoint, I think this year, and I would even venture to say towards the end of this year, was when I first saw you fully take charge and be like, this is where we're heading. I remember there was a moment we were in Miami and our goal was always been if you follow the podcast forever, that's our goal was to impact 1 million people by 2020. And Guy up and went and upped it to 100 million by 2020 without even having a conversation or anything. He's like, by the way, this is what we're doing now. And I was like, you know what? To me, that was just kind of a shift for you. I think hearing you on interviews, when we've been on other people's podcasts, you've started to own who you are in a way that I always dreamed was possible. But I can't say that I've seen glimpses here and there, but not sustained.
Yeah.
And you are now that human being. Where it goes from here, I cannot even begin to fathom.
I know.
But for me, just watching you for the first time own it, it's just it's the most amazing thing.
For me too. Seriously, I'm watching it like a spectator as much as anybody else. I'm like, what's he gonna do next? That's pretty much how I live my life right now because I'm starting to have such big ideas in my head. Again, it's just ayahuasca, and honestly, what I can tell you is it's not ayahuasca. Ayahuasca opened a door for me to allow something, and I'm just allowing my mind to wander, but not the way that a person who's having ADD allows their mind to wander. I'm talking about life thousands of years from now kind of thinking and how that could impact the decisions we're making today, the choices that we're going to make, how to make that future come to pass, and what kind of systems we need to put in place and what governments might look like and stuff like that. Really crazy ass shit is going on in my head and I love it. Yeah. I love it. I feel like I'm painting in my mind, but it's allowing me to get impacted in the present in a way that I can't even tell you. And just, again, I keep coming back to believe. I believe so strongly in my bones, in my ability to impact this planet that I'm willing to die for it. Yeah. And I think that's the shift. Same thing with the business. Anytime in my life where I've been okay with it's this or death, the best of me has come out.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened too. I was so afraid to share this because I was afraid of the pushback. Because some of them are really radical type of ideas. And I know that if I'm just out there spitballing ideas, people are going to think you're an insane person, and I'm fine.
Okay.
Cool. I'm and if somebody was so threatened that they would want to beat me up or kill me for it, I would still be fine. I've accepted that could potentially happen. And that is all you need for belief. Because if you're willing to die for a cause, Like,
nothing can stop you.
Fear can't stop you, and it's still there. It just doesn't have any impact anymore.
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
Beautiful.
yeah.
So what about biggest failures and lessons?
Biggest fucking failure.
I can take one.
Yeah, go for it. Take a stab at it.
I think I shared this on one of the podcasts, but I think the blow up we had with Jay and Stewart, to me, was probably the biggest, the most impactful of the failures. I remember
most surprising to me.
Yeah, it was obviously very shocking. It was one of those things where you feel like you're doing everything right, and then shit still happens. And it's a great lesson. It's like, the line that kept being used is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, which is a great line. And we actually said it many times in those, multiple week conversations. But I think that to me was the most devastating moment. I just remember having that was the worst 2 weeks that I had this year. It brought up a lot of past stuff with my best friend and stuff like that. But I think realizing that as good as intentions can be, without communication, without clear, concise, honest communication, it doesn't fucking matter, because our good intentions had a horrible impact on two people's lives that I would kill for and take a bullet for. And it was really, really painful. And I think for me, the biggest lesson was, you kind of if you don't check in, if you're just kind of out, when we were kind of out on our island doing our thing, right? Changing people's lives, everything that is SatoriPrime's mission. And at the same time, we're impacting, right? So there's it's like you're driving in a car and there's still an impact, right? You're affecting the ozone, your carbon monoxide is coming out. And I feel like we were doing it and weren't even looking back to see do people that we love, are they getting fucked somehow by this or anything like that? Ultimately, I think that was a big, big failure. Or at least, perceived failure, whatever you want to fucking call it. But
you know what? Here's the thing I'd like to do. So 2014 is the last time I'm using that word. I'm done with that word. Why? Because it drives all the wrong emotions, right? And I've redefined failure a long time ago. It's a really good thing, but there's really I don't use the word expense anymore, ever. There's no expenses in my world. Everything's an investment. Investment that you're just getting back in time, relationships. Sometimes it's money. It's always being returned. And like you said, coincidentally, it ended up being the best thing. It's never a coincidence. Yeah. Every single time shit's flipped upside down in my life, it ends up being the best thing that's ever happened to me. Always. Every time. Without a doubt, every single time. So it's how can I look at something that's negatively impacted me in a moment and call it a failure, knowing that every single time in my life, it's ended up being a blessing, the best thing that's ever happened to me. So failure is not the right distinction anymore. Yeah. We need to come up with a new word, and I'm never using that shit again. And it's just try to me, it's but to me, it's a should to me, it's a put over to me. None of that's, those words don't even exist to me. They're not in my vocabulary anymore. Failure is out. I even have a tough time calling it a mishap. It was just the thing that hit me emotionally the hardest this year. Out of things in my personal relationship, in my love life, where I had to deal with out of integrity and stuff like that. Outside of that, on an emotional level, that's what impacted me the most. It hurt me to my core, knowing that I caused somebody else pain. I think, right? It's simply because to me, that quote unquote event led to the greatest lesson of the year, from what could have been really horrible experience to actually generating one of the greatest experiences. Yep. I would call it a learned outcome or something. Yeah, something about learning. We'll come up with it. Yeah, we'll come up with something. But yeah, or if you guys have any ideas, if anybody out there's got ideas, just leave a comment below this video. I'd love to. If someone has a distinction, we come up with it together. Absolutely. Like it's got to be something so it needs to be motivating in nature, almost like to seek them. Like it was the scariest and one of my most proudest moments at the same time this year, because it also showed me where me and you are in terms of dealing with things from an empowered place, even when you should feel like absolute dirt at that point in time, and still being empowered and still being able to take responsibility and create from a place that most people have no power in, right?
Yeah.
And I was really proud of both of us during that time. So kind of both sides. So where do we want to go from here?
Anything that you experienced this year in business that also you had like a major lesson from other than that?
I would pick that one too. And again, only because it was the most emotional one out of all of them, which was telling me that's the one that like struck the biggest chord. And then I would just say, like, from a non-business point of view, just dealing with that out of integrities inside of a relationship, also just like very hard-hitting emotional things that it's just like, you can't learn those lessons. Like you say it all the time now. You can't, we had Jordan Gray on. You can't learn those lessons outside of a relationship.
Yeah.
And it impacts you because, like, relationships are partnerships, right? If there's a reason our partnership is stronger, is because my partnership is stronger.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And there's an impact there also. So dealing with the out of integrities that have been there for years, for like as long, from probably since I was like in 7th grade, about relationships. And having to deal with that stuff, I would say, were like my biggest failures, but also like the best things that have happened this year.
Yeah.
Because it's helped me find a lot more balance.
Yeah. I mean, even in my interview with the founder of VUG, he has a great line, which I can't remember right now, but he's like something along the lines of like, your most miseries are your greatest teachers, greatest lessons, or victories, or something like that.
Yeah, you make them repeat it a few times on there.
Yeah, because I just love that line. All right, so that's a wrap on part 1. And one of the things I think I said in this one that really struck me was our relationship to the word failure, and failure in general. And so we basically called everyone out and said, look, let's recontextualize. Let's come up with some new word for the things that occur that are our greatest lessons, right? So let's do that, right? I'd love to hear from you guys. Again, as always, Ilan at SatoriPrime.com. Email me. Let me know your thoughts. What should we come up with? And if someone comes up with something really great, I'll actually share it on the podcast. I might even bring you out on the podcast and have you share it with us. But in the meantime, goal for this session, right, in between this podcast and next, start discussing these things, right? Pull your spouse, your partner, your whomever aside. Have this conversation. Greatest success, greatest learning, biggest event, right, that occurred that had you learn the biggest lesson, anything you want to say to each other, things of that nature, just to kind of round out. And make sure you come in and check part 2, because in part 2, we're going to outline the process that we go through to create new goals in 2015. So you do not want to miss that. Hope you're having an amazing day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Performance Enhancing Podcast. We've taken this pep talk and created a custom action guide so you know exactly what action steps to take now to grow your business. Just head over to SatoriPrime.com/podcast and download it for free. Also, please leave a comment and rate this podcast on iTunes. It'll help us get the word out. Thanks for listening. Now, go and implement. We'll see you next time.
Did you run through doors till you hit the floor?